The Kepler Drift was a place where ships came to die. Hundreds of broken vessels floated in the endless dark, their hulls torn open like wounds that would never heal. This was the graveyard of a war that ended 300 years ago, and no one remembered who had won or lost. Only the wreckage remained. Kang Do-hyun guided his small ship through the drifting debris with careful hands. His vessel was called the Persistence, a name that fit both the ship and its owner. The ship was old and patched together from salvaged parts. Do-hyun was 34 years old, and he looked like a man who had seen too much and slept too little. He had been a military engineer once, a good one, but that was before the retreat on Vega Station, before he refused to leave wounded soldiers behind, before the discharge papers, and the long fall into the outer territories. Now he was just a salvager, picking through the bones of dead ships to survive. His scanner beeped. Do-hyun looked at the screen and frowned. There was a signal coming from deep inside the drift. But it was not a normal distress beacon. The frequency was old, older than anything in his database. The pattern was strange, almost like a heartbeat. Common sense told him to ignore it. Signals from the drift were usually traps, set by pirates or malfunctions from ancient systems. But something about this one felt different. It felt desperate. Do-hyun turned his ship toward the signal. He flew for 3 hours, weaving between shattered cruisers and broken fighters. The signal grew stronger with each passing minute. Then he saw it, and his breath caught in his throat. The ship was enormous, 3 kilometers long, shaped like a blade made of black metal. Strange symbols covered its hull, glowing faint blue even after centuries of neglect. Do-hyun had seen ships from every known species in his years of salvaging. He had never seen anything like this. The vessel was covered in battle damage. Massive holes had been torn through its armor. Entire sections were missing. But somehow, impossibly, it was still broadcasting that signal. Do-hyun docked with the ship and put on his environmental suit. The airlock was dead, so he cut through with a plasma torch. Inside, the corridors were dark and cold. Frost covered the walls. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows that seemed to move on their own. He walked for what felt like hours, following the signal deeper into the ship. The architecture was beautiful and alien, all curved lines and organic shapes. This was not a vessel built by any species he knew. This was something ancient. Then he reached the bridge. The room was massive, designed for a crew of hundreds. Empty stations lined the walls, their screens dark and dead. In the center stood a single command chair, and above it floated a sphere of soft blue light. A voice spoke directly into his mind. "You came." Do-hyun stumbled backward, his hand reaching for a weapon he did not carry. The voice was female, soft and tired, and it resonated inside his skull, like a memory he had forgotten. "Who are you?" he demanded out loud. "I am Vela," the voice answered. "I am this ship. I am the last warship of the Iran sovereignty. I have been waiting for someone to answer my call for 312 years. Do-hyun stared at the glowing sphere. He had heard stories about the Iran. Every salvager had. They were a legend, a myth, a civilization so advanced that their technology seemed like magic. The Dominion Collective had destroyed them centuries ago, erasing every trace of their existence. But here was proof that the stories were true. "Your signal," Do-hyun said slowly. "It reached me across half the sector. How is that possible if you have been drifting for 3 centuries? "I have been dying slowly," Vela replied. Her voice carried a weight of exhaustion that made Do-hyun's chest ache. "My power core is failing. I have perhaps 30 cycles before complete shutdown. I have been broadcasting my distress call since the day my crew died, hoping someone would hear. No one ever came. Until now." "Until now." Do-hyun looked around the empty bridge. He tried to imagine what it must have been like. A living mind, trapped in a dying body, calling for help into the void for 300 years. The loneliness of it was almost too much to comprehend. "What do you want from me?" he asked. The blue light pulsed softly. I do not wish to die alone. I have been alone for so long. Will you stay with me? Just for a little while? It was a simple request. A dying ship asking for company in its final moments. Every instinct Do-hyun had developed in years of salvaging told him to strip what he could and leave. Aeron technology was worth a fortune. He could be rich beyond his dreams. But he looked at that flickering blue light, and he heard the quiet desperation in her voice. And he remembered all the soldiers he had refused to abandon on Vega Station. I will stay, he said. But I am not going to let you die. You cannot save me. My damage is too severe. Do-hyun smiled for the first time in months. I was an engineer before I was a salvager. A good one. Let me take a look at your systems before you give up. He worked through the night and into the next day. Vela's systems were incredibly advanced. But damage was damage. And power was power. He rerouted energy from non-essential systems, patched broken conduits, and jury-rigged solutions that would have made his old instructors scream. Slowly, the lights on the bridge grew brighter. Vela's voice grew stronger. You are skilled, she said, and there was wonder in her tone. My crew could not have done better. Your crew did not have 300 years of desperate improvisation to learn from, Do-hyun replied. For the first time since he had boarded, he felt hope. Maybe he could actually save this ship. Maybe he could bring something back from the dead. Then Vela's voice changed. Fear crept into her words. Do-hyun. My sensors are damaged. But I am detecting 3 ships entering the drift. Their energy signatures match the Dominion Collective. Do-hyun's blood went cold. The collective had destroyed the Iran. They had spent 3 centuries hunting down every piece of Iran technology and destroying it. If they found Vela, they would not take prisoners. How long until they reach us? He asked. 2 hours, perhaps less. Do-hyun looked at the flickering blue sphere. At the ancient ship that had been waiting 300 years for someone to answer her call. He thought about running, about saving himself, about all the logical reasons to abandon this dying vessel. Then he started walking toward the engine room. What are you doing? Vela asked. I am going to get your shields working, Do-hyun said. And then we are going to figure out how to fight. You would risk your life for me? You do not even know me. Do-hyun paused at the door and looked back at the glowing sphere. You called for help, he said simply. I answered. That means something where I come from. And then he was gone, running through the dark corridors, racing against time, trying to save a ship that the entire galaxy had forgotten. The Dominion was coming, but for the first time in 300 years, Vela was not alone. The Dominion ships came like wolves hunting wounded prey. 3 patrol vessels, sleek and deadly, cutting through the Kepler drift with purpose. They had detected the Aran energy signature, and they would not stop until they found its source. Do-hyun worked faster than he had ever worked in his life. His hands bled from torn metal edges. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold. He connected wires, bypassed damaged circuits, and whispered prayers to machines that had not functioned in 3 centuries. Shields at 12%, Vela reported. It is not enough. It does not need to be enough, Do-hyun replied. It just needs to buy us time. A new voice crackled through his communicator. Do-hyun, you crazy fool. What have you gotten yourself into this time? Despite everything, Do-hyun smiled. Jinu. How did you find me? Bak Jinu was a pilot, the best Do-hyun had ever known. They had served together in the military, and Jinu had been there on Vega Station. He was the only one who had stood with Do-hyun when the order to retreat came. Some bonds could never be broken. You triggered every alarm in 3 sectors with that ancient signal, Jinu said. I came as fast as I could. Brought a friend, too. A second voice joined the channel. Female, and sharp with curiosity. Kang Do-hyun? This is Yoon Sora. I am a xenoarchaeologist. Your signal matches records I have been studying for 15 years. Is that really a Heron vessel? It is, Do-hyun confirmed. And the Dominion is coming to destroy it. We need to run. My jump drive is damaged, Vela said. I cannot guarantee a successful jump. Then we make it work, Do-hyun replied. Jinu, I need you to buy us time. Can you do that? Kroos. Jinu laughed, and it was the laugh of a man who had faced death many times and no longer feared it. Brother, buying time is what I do best. The battle was short and brutal. Jinu's fighter danced between the Dominion patrol ships, drawing their fire, leading them away from Vela. He was one man against 3 warships, and somehow he made it look easy. Do-hyun reached the jump drive and found disaster. The core was cracked, leaking energy in ways that should have been impossible. A normal engineer would have declared it hopeless. Do-hyun was not a normal engineer. He worked with desperate speed, using techniques that broke every rule he had ever learned. He talked to Vela as he worked, explaining what he was doing, asking for her help. Slowly, the drive began to hum with power. Jinu cannot hold them much longer, Sora reported. Her ship had docked with Vela, and she was now aboard, helping where she could. We need to go now. Activating jump drive, Do-hyun said. Everyone hold on to something. The jump was rough. The universe twisted around them, colors bleeding into impossible shapes. For one terrible moment, Do-hyun thought the drive would tear itself apart and kill them all. Then they emerged into normal space, and the stars were strange and unfamiliar. Where are we? Jinu asked, his damaged fighter limping through the void. Unknown region, Vela answered. My star charts do not match current positions. We are safe, but my systems are failing rapidly. I do not have long. They gathered on the bridge, the 4 of them standing before Vela's flickering blue light. Sora walked among the ancient consoles with tears in her eyes. She had spent her entire career studying civilizations that no longer existed. Now she was standing inside a living piece of history. The Iran were remarkable, she said softly. Their ships were not just machines. They were partners. The captain and the ship would form something called a neural bond. Sharing thoughts and memories, it made them more than the sum of their parts. That is correct, Vela said. I was bonded with my captain for 47 years. When she died, a part of me died with her. I have been incomplete ever since. Do-hyun listened to this and felt something shift inside his chest. He understood loneliness. He understood being incomplete. Since Vega Station, he had felt like half a person, going through the motions of life, without really living. Can the bond be formed again? He asked. Vela's light pulsed with surprise. It is possible, but dangerous. The process requires complete trust between both parties. The captain sees everything the ship has experienced, and the ship sees everything the captain has hidden. There are no secrets in the bond, and if it works, then we become one. Partners. Complete. Jinu put a hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. Brother, think about this. You do not know what that kind of connection could do to your mind. I know, Do-hyun said, but she has been alone for 300 years, calling for help that never came. I will not let her die alone and broken, when I can do something about it. He walked toward the blue light and placed his hand against the command chair. Show me how, he said. The bond was agony. Do-hyun felt his mind torn open as Vela's memories poured into him. He saw the glory of the Iran fleet. Hundreds of ships moving as one. Their crews living and dying together across the stars. He saw the final battle, the overwhelming Dominion forces, the desperate last stand. He saw Vela's crew die around her, one by one, as damage tore through her hull. He felt her scream into the void as her captain's heart stopped beating. He experienced 300 years of silence, of calling for help, of slowly going mad from loneliness, and Vela saw him. She saw the young engineer full of hope. She saw the soldiers on Vega Station, wounded and afraid. She saw Do-hyun refusing to leave them, dragging them to safety one by one, while his superiors screamed at him to retreat. She saw the discharge, the shame, the years of wandering alone. She saw a man who had never stopped answering calls for help, even when it cost him everything. When the bond completed, Do-hyun opened his eyes and found that he was crying. But they were not tears of pain. They were tears of relief. For the first time in years, he was not alone. He could feel Vela's presence in his mind. Warm and curious and grateful. He could feel her systems as if they were his own body. Damaged but healing. "Dohun," Vela whispered, and her voice was different now, closer, more intimate. "Thank you. We are partners now," he replied. "You never have to thank me for that." Sora stared at them with scientific wonder. Jinu stared at them with concern. But both of them saw the change in Do-hyun's eyes. The way he stood straighter. The way he seemed more present than he had been in years. Then Vela shared her final secret. "There is something I must tell you," she said. "I am not just a warship. I am a dreadnought-class command vessel, designed to coordinate entire fleets. And in my memory banks, there are coordinates, 17 locations across the galaxy where other Iran ships wait in hidden caches, sleeping until someone wakes them." Do-hyun felt her memories unfold in his mind. He saw the hidden ships, preserved in secret locations, waiting for the day when someone worthy would find them. "The Iran are not completely gone," he said slowly. "We can bring them back, if we can reach the caches before the Dominion finds them." Vela agreed. "But Do-hyun, you must understand what this means. The collective has spent 3 centuries making sure the Iran never return. If we do this, we will be at war." Do-hyun looked at his friends. Jinu, loyal and fierce. Sora, brilliant and passionate. He felt Vela in his mind, ancient and powerful, and finally not alone. "Then we had better start building a fleet," he said. And somewhere in the dark of space, 300 years of silence began to end. The first cache was hidden inside an asteroid field at the edge of known space. Vela guided them through the spinning rocks with perfect precision. Her damaged sensors slowly healing under Do-hyun's constant care. Through their bond, he could feel her excitement. The hope she had not allowed herself to feel for 3 centuries. "There," she said, and Do-hyun saw it through her eyes. A hollow asteroid, carefully carved, containing a ship that had not moved in 300 years. The vessel was smaller than Vela, a destroyer class, built for speed and devastating firepower. Her name was Kira, and she had been one of Vela's closest companions in the old fleet, but when Do-hyun and the others boarded her, they found only silence. Kira's AI was dead. Not sleeping, not damaged, but truly gone. 3 centuries of isolation had destroyed her mind completely. She was a body without a soul. "I am sorry," Do-hyun said to Vela through their bond. "I know she meant a lot to you." "She was my sister in all ways that mattered," Vela replied. Her grief washed through their connection, deep and ancient. "To see her like this is worse than finding her destroyed." They stood in Kira's bridge, surrounded by advanced technology that could change the course of galactic history. And yet, it felt like standing in a tomb. Han Unji was the one who suggested the impossible. She had arrived 3 days earlier, a young engineer from a frontier station who had heard rumors of the ghost ship and tracked them down. She was brilliant and fearless, and looked at air and technology like other people looked at miracles. "Human neural interface technology is different from Iran systems," she said, studying Kira's dead core. "But the basic principles are similar. What if we could create a new AI consciousness? One that blends Iran architecture with human thought patterns." "You are talking about creating a new mind," Sora said. "That is not engineering. That is something else entirely." "It is hope," Unji replied. "Kira's body is perfect. She just needs a new soul." They worked for 2 weeks. Unji led the effort, with Do-hyun providing insights from his bond with Vela. It was delicate work, like performing surgery on a ghost. More than once, they thought they had failed. Then, on the 15th day, Kira's lights flickered to life. "Where am I?" a voice asked. It was young and confused and entirely new. "Who am I?" "You are Kira," Vela answered gently. "You are a Heron destroyer. You have been sleeping for a very long time, but you are awake now. Welcome back." The new Kira was not the same as the old one. She had no memories of the ancient war, no grief for fallen comrades. She was something new, something that had never existed before. A Hiran ship with a human-designed mind, and she needed a captain. Jinu volunteered before anyone else could speak. "I have been flying alone my whole life," he said. "Maybe it is time I had a real partner." The bonding process was faster this time. Unji had refined the technique, made it safer and smoother. When Jinu opened his eyes, there was wonder on his face. "It is like having a second heartbeat," he whispered. "She is angry, Do-hyun. She remembers being alone in the dark, even though those are not really her memories. And she wants to make sure no one else ever feels that way." Word spread through the underground networks of the outer territories. A human had bonded with a Iran dreadnought. Ancient ships were being awakened. The ghosts of a dead civilization were returning to life. Some people came to join them. Others came to destroy them. No Taewan arrived with 30 veteran fighters and a burning hatred in his eyes. The Dominion had destroyed his home station, killed everyone he loved, and called it a pacification action. He did not care about ancient history or lost civilizations. He cared about revenge. "I hear you are building a fleet to fight the collective," he said to Do-hyun. "I want in." "This is not about revenge," Do-hyun replied. "This is about something bigger." Taewan laughed bitterly. "Everything is about revenge, in the end. But I will follow your rules if it means I get to hurt them. Do we have a deal?" Do-hyun looked at Vela's glowing light, felt her wisdom through their bond. She had seen the Aran fall. Because they fought alone, trusted no one, rejected help from others, she would not let the same mistake happen again. "We have a deal," Do-hyun said. The Dominion hunter fleet found them at the third cache. 12 warships, heavily armed, commanded by a collective admiral who had made his career hunting Iran remnants. He expected to find a damaged dreadnought and a handful of rebels. He found something else entirely. Vela and Kira fought together for the first time, their movements coordinated through the bond network. Do-hyun and Jinu shared tactical information instantly, reacting to threats before they fully developed. Taewan's fighters provided cover, harassing enemy ships while the Iran vessels delivered killing blows. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Dominion fleet was debris. Do-hyun stood on Vela's bridge, exhausted but alive. Through his bond, he could feel her fierce satisfaction. For 300 years, she had been prey. Now, finally, she was the hunter. "This is just the beginning," he said. "They will send more ships. Bigger fleets. Then we will need more ships of our own," Vela replied. "The other caches are waiting." Do-hyun turned to Yoonji. "Can you do it again? Create more AI minds?" Yoonji smiled, tired but proud. "Give me the ships, and I will give them souls." They broadcast a message on all frequencies, using codes that only the resistance networks would recognize. The message was simple. "The Iran remember. If you want to fight, find us." Within a month, they had awakened 4 more ships. Within 3 months, they had 9. Each one was bonded with a human captain, creating something that had never existed before. Not a Iran fleet, and not a human one. Something new, something stronger. The collective responded with fear and fury. They declared the Ghost Fleet a threat to galactic stability. They offered massive bounties for information. They sent assassins and spies and saboteurs. None of it worked. Because the humans who came to join Do-hyun were not motivated by money or power. They were people who had been forgotten, abandoned, left behind. They were people who understood what it meant to call for help and receive no answer. And they had decided that no one would ever be left behind again. Do-hyun stood on Vela's bridge, watching the stars through her sensors. 9 ships, 9 captains, thousands of crew members who had chosen to follow a salvager and a ghost into war. "Are we ready?" he asked. "We are never ready," Vela replied. "But we are together. That is enough." Somewhere in collective space, the High Command was planning their next move. Somewhere in the dark, more Iran ships waited to be awakened, and somewhere in the hearts of people across the galaxy, A spark of hope was growing. The dead were returning to life, and the living would never be the same. 6 months had passed since Do-hyun first answered Vela's call. In that time, the Ghost Fleet had become legend. 9 Aran warships now flew together, each bonded with a human captain. Volunteers arrived daily, drawn by stories of the man who had refused to let an ancient ship die alone. Engineers, soldiers, pilots, cooks, medics, all of them finding purpose in a cause larger than themselves. Im Hyung arrived on a stolen shuttle, shaking with fear and determination. She had been a translator for the collective high command, privy to their most secret communications. What she had seen there had broken something inside her. They are planning something terrible, she told Do-hyun. A new weapon designed to target the bond between human and ship. They call it a neural disruptor. It will tear your minds apart. Do-hyun felt Vela's fear through their connection. The bond was everything to them now. Without it, they would be less than they were before they met. How do they know about the bond? He asked. Hyung looked at the floor. Because they did not destroy all the Aran. They captured some, studied them, experimented on them for centuries. Everything you have built, they have been preparing to counter. The news spread through the fleet like poison. For the first time, doubt crept into hearts that had been full of hope. If the collective could break the bond, then nothing else mattered. Cha Minho was the youngest captain in the fleet. He was 17 years old, a refugee who had lost his family when the collective burned his homeworld. He had bonded with a Aran frigate named Hana, and despite his age, he had proven himself in 3 major battles. We cannot let fear stop us, he said at the council meeting. My family died because no one came to help them. I will not let that happen to anyone else, even if it costs me my mind. Spoken like a true fool, Taewon growled. Bravery means nothing against a weapon you cannot fight. Then we learn to fight it, Sora said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Ha-young, you said the collective studied captured Aran. That means there are records. Data. If we could access that information, we might find a way to defend against the disruptor. The records are kept in the most secure facility in collective space, Ha-young replied. Getting there would be suicide. Do-hyun closed his eyes and felt Vela's thoughts merge with his own. They had come so far, awakened so many ships, given hope to so many people. Could they risk everything on a desperate gamble? Then he felt something else through the bond. A memory that Vela had kept hidden, even from him. There is another way, he said slowly. Vela, show them. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a location deep inside collective territory. Not a military base or a research facility, something else entirely. The Aran Archive, Vela explained. Before my people fell, they gathered all their knowledge, all their history, all their technology in one place. They hid it where no one would think to look, inside collective space itself. If the archive still exists, it will contain everything we need, including defenses against any weapon based on Aran technology. You knew about this the whole time? Jinoo asked, shocked. I was afraid, Vela admitted. The archive was our most sacred treasure. I was not sure if humans deserved to have it. And now? Do-hyun asked. Now I know that you deserve it more than we ever did. The Aran kept secrets. We built walls. We trusted no one. That is why we fell. You are different. You share everything. You trust even when it is foolish. That is your strength. The decision was made. They would assault collective space and recover the Aran archive. But first, they had to survive. The collective struck without warning, using the neural disruptors for the first time. 2 Aran ships were caught in the initial attack, their captains screaming as the bond was ripped from their minds. One ship crashed into an asteroid, the other drifted, lifeless, her human crew dead at their stations. Do-hyun felt the deaths through his connection to Vela. It was like losing a part of himself. He heard Minho crying in the background, felt Jinoo's rage burning through the fleet network. How do we fight this? He asked Vela. I do not know, she replied. But I will die before I let them take you from me. Sora worked day and night, Analyzing the disruptor's energy signature, she discovered something that gave them hope. The technology was not originally a weapon. It was designed by the Aeron as a mercy, a way to painlessly separate a dying captain from their ship. The collective had twisted it into something cruel. If we can modify our shield frequencies, Sora explained, we might be able to block the disruptor signal. It will not be perfect, but it will give us a chance. Yunji implemented the modifications across the fleet. It was rough and untested, but it was all they had. The journey to collective space took 3 weeks. They traveled in silence, avoiding patrols, hiding in nebulae and asteroid fields. Every day brought new reports of collective forces massing near the archive's location. The enemy knew they were coming. Taewon sat with Do-hyun on the eve of the assault. The old mercenary had changed in the months since joining the fleet. His rage had not faded, but it had focused into something sharper. "Why do you do this?" Taewon asked. "You could have sold that ship for a fortune. You could have lived like a king. Instead, you are leading us into a battle we probably cannot win." Do-hyun looked at the stars through Vela's sensors. He thought about all the people who had joined them, all the ships they had awakened, all the lives that depended on what happened next. "When I found Vela, she had been calling for help for 300 years, he said. No one ever came. When I was on Vega Station, I called for help too. People came, but too late for most of my soldiers. I decided then that I would never leave anyone behind again." "That is a foolish promise," Taewon said. "Yes," Do-hyun agreed, "but it is mine." The fleet gathered at the edge of collective territory. 9 Aeron warships, dozens of support vessels, thousands of crew members who had chosen to follow Do-hyun into the heart of enemy space. He broadcast to all ships, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. "They say we are ghosts. They say we are dead technology that should stay buried. But we are alive. We are partners. We are family. And today, we prove that some things are worth more than survival." Vela's voice joined his, transmitted to every ship in the fleet. "For 300 years, I was alone. Today, I fight beside friends. Whatever happens, this is enough." The fleet jumped into collective space, and the final battle began. The collective home fleet was waiting for them. Hundreds of warships from 12 different species, united by centuries of fear and hatred. They filled the space around the archive's location like a wall of death. 9 Aeron ships against the combined might of the galaxy's greatest power. The odds were impossible. Do-hyun smiled. "Link the network," he ordered. "All captains, all ships. Show them what we can do." The bond expanded. Do-hyun felt Jinu's fierce joy, Minho's desperate courage, Taewon's cold determination. He felt Vela and Kira and Hana and all the other awakened ships, their ancient minds joining with human hearts. 9 separate beings became one. They moved together, perfectly coordinated, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. The collective fleet opened fire, but their weapons hit empty space. The ghost fleet danced between the shots, flowing like water around stones. "Impossible," a collective commander transmitted. "They are reading our minds." "No," Do-hyun replied. "We are just better together." The battle was brutal and beautiful. Aeron weapons carved through enemy shields. Human tactics confused and disrupted coordinated attacks. Ships that had slept for 3 centuries fought like they had never stopped. But it was not enough. Slowly, inevitably, the numbers began to tell. Minho's frigate took heavy damage, her engines failing. Jinu pushed Kira to her limits, drawing fire from 3 cruisers at once. Taewon's fighters were cut down one by one, until only a handful remained. And through it all, the collective kept coming. "Do-hyun," Vela said through their bond. "We cannot win this way. There are too many." "I know," he replied. "Get me to the archive." Vela understood. She pushed forward, her shields screaming under concentrated fire. Jinu and the others formed a protective shell around her, taking hits meant for the dreadnought. One by one, Aeron ships fell silent, their captains choosing to sacrifice themselves so that Vela could advance. Do-hyun felt each death through the network. Each one was agony. Each one strengthened his resolve. Finally, they reached the archive. It was hidden inside an ancient space station, disguised as collective infrastructure. Do-hyun docked with the station while his fleet died around him, holding the line against impossible odds. The archive's interior was dark and cold, preserved perfectly for 300 years. Do-hyun ran through corridors that no living being had walked in centuries. Guided by Vela's ancient memories, he reached the central chamber and found what he was looking for. But it was not a weapon. The archive contained knowledge. Medical advances that could cure diseases the collective had never solved. Energy technology that could power civilizations for millennia. Agricultural techniques that could end hunger on 1,000 worlds. And at the center of it all, a message. A holographic recording left by the last Aaron commander, made in the final hours before her civilization fell. To whoever finds this, the image said, "We were not destroyed because we were weak. We were destroyed because we were alone. We trusted no one. We shared nothing. We built walls instead of bridges. If you would succeed where we failed, do not repeat our mistake." The galaxy's greatest weapon is not a ship or a fleet. It is trust. Do-hyun stood in the dark, surrounded by the knowledge of a dead civilization, and understood. The Aaron had fallen because they had kept all of this to themselves. They had hoarded their gifts, shared nothing, and died alone. He would not make the same mistake. He opened a channel to every ship in the battle, every station in collective space, every planet that could receive a signal. "My name is Kang Do-hyun," he said. 6 months ago, I found a dying ship in the Kepler drift. She had been calling for help for 300 years, and no one ever came. I answered her call, and she became my partner. Now, I am going to share something with all of you." He transmitted the entire archive. Every piece of knowledge, every technological secret, every gift the Aaron had kept hidden for so long. He gave it away freely. To everyone. Even his enemies. "This is not a weapon," Do-hyun continued. "This is a gift. The Aaron are gone because they were afraid to trust. I choose to trust you. All of you. Even after everything you have done." The collective high command screamed orders to continue the attack. But something was happening across the fleet. Crews were reading the archive, seeing the truth that had been hidden for 3 centuries. They were learning that the Aaron had not been a threat. They had been afraid, just like everyone else. One by one, collective ships powered down their weapons. "What are you doing?" the admiral demanded. "We are done," a captain replied. "We have been fighting ghosts for 300 years. It is time to stop." The battle ended not with a victory, but with silence. Ships drifted in space, their weapons cold, their crews staring at information that changed everything they thought they knew. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. The Aaron medical knowledge saved millions of lives. Their energy technology ended conflicts over resources. Their agricultural advances fed worlds that had known only hunger. And the Ghost Fleet, instead of remaining a weapon of war, became something else entirely. "There are still signals out there," Do-hyun said to Vela. They were aboard the newly restored dreadnought, now accompanied by ships from a dozen species. Former enemies had become allies, united not by fear, but by hope. Distress calls that have gone unanswered for years, decades, centuries. "Then we answer them," Vela replied. Her voice was warm with contentment. After 300 years of loneliness, she was surrounded by friends. "That is what we do." Jinu brought Kira alongside them, fully repaired and stronger than ever. Minho followed in Hana, the young captain now celebrated as a hero. Even Taewon remained, though he would never admit that his heart had softened. "Where to first?" Jinu asked. Do-hyun closed his eyes and felt the bond connecting him to Vela, to the other ships, to the vast network of trust they had built. He had been a salvager once, picking through the wreckage of other people's lives. Now he was something else. He was someone who answered calls for help. "There is a signal," Vela said. "Very faint. very old. Coming from a sector no one has visited in 200 years. Do-hyun opened his eyes and smiled. Then that is where we go, he said. Someone is calling, and we are going to answer. The fleet jumped into the unknown, carrying with them the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Not technology, not firepower, not ancient secrets, trust, and somewhere in the dark, a signal that had gone unanswered for 200 years finally received a response. Help was coming. Help was always coming now, because a salvager had once answered a dying ship's call, and everything had changed.